The Let Me Be Frank podcast is proudly sponsored by Glenwood. Glenwood are the UK's leading construction industry debt recovery agency.
Remember, no win, no fee with Glenwood Debt Recovery.
Find out more at glenwoodconstruction.co.uk. Hello again, it is another episode of the Let Me Be Frank podcast with myself, Simon Houston, Mr. Frank McAvennie.
How you doing?
He's got his shorts on, you can't see them.
No.
But the weather's
Hiding the legs.
turned for the better again today. It's nice, aye.
Might get a game of golf this week.
Aye. So we've got another brilliant guest, a really, really interesting guest because Ex-Celtic, Ex-Scotland, played in World Cups, loads of caps. Tosh McKinlay, brilliant.
Thanks for coming in, Tosh.
Not a problem. It's a
nice to
pleasure
have
to be
you.
here. It's a fucking pleasure to be anywhere, to be honest.
You're just flown back in, haven't you? Just
Aye, that's
flown
right.
in from
Yeah, the
faraway lands.
convention, yeah.
Celtic
Las
convention in Vegas.
Yeah,
Yes.
brilliant. I don't think there's another team or club on the planet that could put that on.
No.
Absolutely fantastic. Big Tommy Donnelly, Jackie Meakin running the show.
Ah, good.
So, no, it's
Seen
very good.
some of the clips of it. Look,
Did they still do that big pool party?
aye.
I wouldn't be in the pool for any tea in China, to be honest.
We'd be aiming that pool. Oh,
I was seeing it and I thought,
I would bad be going to a hotel. I think we were aiming that pool. Oh my God.
Aye.
I went to one in Windsor, just in Canada.
Yeah.
I went to that one. It was massive, but it was brilliant. It was
In between
Tosh, it was-
Canada and Vegas every 2 years.
I know.
Vegas and in between
I know.
Canada. New
So,
Orleans are going to go to
I can't get in
Mike.
America, so it's I have to go to
Listen,
Canada.
why don't we see if we can sort that out?
I know. Come
Donald,
on.
are you watching?
Ivana, come on.
Aye. Listen, I mean, it's all about, can people improve your country and make it better?
Yes.
If Frank McAvennie can't improve America, I don't know who can. So 612 career appearances, 17 goals, 139 appearances in the hoops, a Scottish Cup winners' medal, which for that period for Celtic, it should have been more, but we'll come on to that. And 22 caps for Scotland. Did you get a cap for the Estonia game when there was nobody there?
We did get a cap. Quick story about the Estonia game. The referee blew for the kick-off, 2 seconds later blew for time up, trudging off the park a bit dejected. Member of the Tartan Army hangs over the turn and says, McKinlay, that's the best game you've ever fucking had.
What I love about that.
Aye, brilliant.
I love about the footage, and it's always you that I can see, but walking off the pitch, and it's a bit like you didn't really know what to do. So you walked off and you went like that. Yes.
Well, no, yes, because we ended up having to play them in Monaco.
that's right,
And
'cause it was
we
like-
drew nothing each, and it nearly
Aye.
messed us up for
I was going to
qualification.
ask, did you not get a win bonus?
Well, it's the SFA market.
That's very
know.
true. Aye, that's
Come on.
very true. So that game, that was all. I mean, obviously, at the time, everybody thought, well, Celtic, Friday and slip. Scotland have got the points, but it was reversed, and they had to go to Monaco.
Yeah,
and
had
play
to go
at
to
Manage.
Monaco and play them and end up drawing nothing each, so...
So it was a waste of journey over there to play the game.
Yeah,
it wasn't a game.
It was to do with the floodlights being too low, and Craig Brown thought he pulled a flanker, but we ended up having to play the game again. So, but your odds on to beat them in Monaco, we didn't.
Yeah.
It was a draw, but thankfully we ended up getting through and qualified.
Well,
Great
so-
experience going to World Cup.
Oh, brilliant!
I know, there's no
Standing
way-
in the tunnel, the opening game of the World Cup, standing in the tunnel next to Ronaldo, Rivaldo, Roberto Carlos, Cafu. There's that many famous faces in that tunnel. I was the only one I didn't fucking recognise.
I know. I can't beat that stand in the tunnel.
that's good.
I've been at the World Cup and I've played in the game. It's brilliant, isn't it? It's
Listen,
great to go to the
what-
country.
what an-
You
what an
didn't warn me
experience.
that you didn't warn me that Tosh was a stand-up comedian
Oh,
as
yes.
well.
I didn't tell you that.
No. But on the subject of stand-up comedians, so you're a Partick boy. St
Yep.
Peter's Primary School, went on to St Thomas Aquinas. But in
Who's that?
St Thomas
St
Aquinas.
Thomas Aquinas, Knightswood, that was the catchment area.
Aye,
Was it?
that's right, aye.
Some belters in there, let me tell
imagine.
you. Turned to the guy I was sitting next to one day and I said, can you smell gas? I said, yeah, I can't even smell my fucking name.
Here we go. He started. Here we go.
I think he's still in Vegas.
He started. He's on it. That's that Red
Just
Bull.
got that one.
That's that Red
I
Bull.
couldn't help myself.
That's that Red Bull. There we
But
go.
the reason I mentioned that because I was asking whether you knew Armando Iannucci, who's obviously the writer and the satirist and so on, because you went to St Peter's Primary, but you were telling me Billy Connolly went to St Peter's as well.
Connolly went a long time before me, right enough. White Street I was down Hull Street. And then he ended up working in the yard. John Brown's my my dad, so there's a wee connection there.
Brilliant.
Aye, so...
Did you ever meet him? Did you have a chance?
Yeah, a couple of chats with him.
met him a few
He used to
times,
go
he's
into
good
the
lad,
Highland
innit?
Bar
Yes.
when he was back home and stuff, you know. But great fella.
Aye, great.
The top man for me,
Yeah.
top comedian.
Aye. I remember he hit one of the reporters, and I said, when are you going to stop hitting reporters and that? And I met him, and he's going, when they start fucking paying me. Like, good answer, boy.
This is
I like
good.
that.
Because Tosh asked us before we started recording before the swearing was okay.
Yes.
And we said yes, but we didn't realise we were going to break the fucking world record the first 5 minutes.
Tourette's.
Aye, so Partick, again, one of the reasons I want to mention that is because that's my kind of neck of the woods. I drink in the Smiddy bar. But you're I think
good
Dolphins
plug.
more your kind of...
Yeah, Dolphin. That was when my old man. Well, he ended up chucking the booze for about 50 years, but that was his kind of local to go in and watch the game when he couldn't get to the game anymore. But St Peter's, my school teacher was more interested in the school team rather than the lessons, you know.
Really?
So
It's a good team.
I knew all the questions at school. It was just the answer to the problem with, you know. So, no, it was the school team. We always they used to play the final at Rosebery Park. No longer there. The under 12s schools final. So we were lucky enough to get to the final one year and win it. You know, which was. But he was only interested in the football really, which was.
Pat McKinlay would have been...
Pat McKinlay 2 years younger than me. So
Aye.
yeah. 2 ex-Celts went to St Peter's Primary. Pat, very good player as well.
There's a boy who drinks in Smiddy. You I think I introduced you to him, Mark Flaherty. They call him Partick Swayze because he's a lookalike.
Party
Well,
Swayze, yeah.
Mark, the big
Right.
thing at that time was getting an under 15 schoolboy cap, and Mark got one. So
Oh, brilliant.
I don't know who he moved on to. I think he went to England to somewhere.
I'll ask him because I'll be in the pub with him this
All right.
weekend. And I'll pass on your regards. But there you go. So that's a bit of Fame Academy.
Yeah,
St.
there you
Peter's.
go.
And
There
then,
you
did
go.
you? So see, when you're going at secondary school at your level, do you really play for the school team much, or do you the kind of? Because you went to Celtic Boys Club, didn't you?
Yeah, I went to there, and no, the school team was still a big thing.
Did they allow you to play when you go to
Yeah.
school?
Well, they
Now they don't, do they? When you sign for Celtic, they don't
Well,
carry-
it wasn't. It was actually the boys' club,
Was it?
Macca.
All right, okay.
So at that time, the home ground was Scotston Showgrounds. Great
yes.
facility.
Oh, great.
So right through till obviously I was leaving school. But I left school at Christmas and I had a chance to go to Dundee just before the O-levels, which was handy for me. And the minute I got there, I really enjoyed it. Up there in the 2-week trial, after the 2 weeks, he asked me to sign. Donald Mackay was the manager. A wee guy called John Ward, who scouted down here for Dundee, he took me up there in the 2-week trial, and then the rest history kind of
Brilliant.
thing.
Fantastic.
Brilliant. Good team. It was a good team there. You had some
It was
good
always
players,
a conveyor
good players,
belt.
aye. Good players. I know Jim
Reece-
Duffy was up there. He was the captain, wasn't he?
Well, Duff was my second team.
Aye.
He was after the when I went there at first. It was Ray Stephen, Ian Ferguson, Stuart McKimmie, Big Bobby Glennie, Les
Right,
Barr.
wow.
Absolutely, you know, like they definitely learned you how to play football. you know.
Aye.
Yeah. Bomber Brown as well was a
Aye,
he was a
there.
guest
That
in
second team
the.
you were there twice.
No, the second
Aye, the
team
teams,
that
aye.
you know Archie
They
Knox
built-
came.
built another team.
He
Aye.
built another team. Like Sir Robert Connor,
Of course.
Stuart
yeah.
Rafferty,
Good
Jim
team.
Duffy, John Brown. There was about 5 or 6 came. The second season, Archie was he was there for a part of the maybe 3 months or something because Donald Mackay got the sack. Then Archie took over, and we really struggled for the remainder of the season. But luckily, we got the points required to retain a place in the Premier League, and then he
Brilliant.
knew that fresh blood was required in the squad.
So you were there. You signed for Hearts. What 88 was it?
9.
89.
Yeah.
So you were obviously Dundee Albert Kidd Day. We discussed that with Colin Henry last week.
Well, that's the famous line that a lot of people didn't get for a long time. I actually came off for Albert to come on in that game.
Is that right?
I'd done my cartilage 2 weeks before at Celtic Park, and the physio, Eric Ferguson, says, you're not going to do much more damage, so go and give an hour and see how you feel. So I lasted an hour, and that's what Granty says, that's the best thing I've ever done for Celtic.
The only thing you've ever done.
Well, maybe.
Now you're picking good people now. You're working again, and you're
I'm
doing
back there scouting, so it's
Any decent
enjoyable.
ones? Did you pick this boy we were talking about it for Fulham? Have you went and seen him? Did you go and see him?
I'm not travelling much, but
Yeah.
the scouts went down a couple of times to see him.
Good
so
player,
he
Palmer.
looks decent.
We were saying that big Tony Gale phoned me and he says, good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, good one. So hopefully, yeah.
Well, the last cross border was Musa Dembele, so
Wow,
hopefully he's
not
as
bad.
decent as him, you know.
If we get half the player who he was, that'd be pretty good. What was the story you guys were talking about before we started recording about John Brown and us sending off or something?
John, he tells the story. He tells the story about John used to have red hair
Aye.
and playing against Celtic, wasn't he? And see, it was a good team, Tosh and Duffy and that, and he used to say, so John scored against Rangers, and the whole 5,000 bears that were there, they were all giving him pelters. They all thought it was one else because he had ginger hair and all that and freckles, and they're all calling him everything that we get called. And then one thing led to another, he scored again. Coyce scored, and he scored, and it was 2 each in a run, and his head done at half time, you know, and Tosh would get sent off. So it was 10 men against Rangers, and he's like that, and everyone's shouting, get your head up and all that, but he's going, they think I'm one of them and all that. And Tosh came into the room and he says, Bomber, get your head up. He says, fucking call me that all the time. He said, but you are one.
Well, the byline to that story is he's scared to go down the road to face his old man.
I know.
Gets in and he said,
brilliant.
that was terrible. Sorry, I scoring against the Rangers. And he said, they were all calling me a Fenian bastard. He said, it was me that fucking started.
Do you hear what they were calling your boy? It was me and your brother started.
He told that story on this podcast, and what I loved about more than anything else was he walked in the house and his dad and his brother were watching the Generation game with Bruce Forsyth.
He knew exactly what was on the telly.
And I was like, did they not turn on and say, nice to see you nice?
Aye.
Oh, brilliant.
Aye, brilliant. It was
So-
good fun.
So will we skip over the Hearts bit? Do you want to talk about Hearts as well? No, you were there a long time.
I had a couple of good seasons at Hearts, even though I was there for 6.
Is that what you were there for a while, were you?
6 years at Hearts.
Wow.
Played more games for Hearts than I did for anybody else.
Really,
No, big games. Celtic and Rangers coming to town, derby games against the Hibs, 22 games unbeaten run.
When were you there?
18, 90, 94.
I just left Celtic and back down the road.
Back down the road. Actually go to the ridiculous stage. I actually scored against Hibs a New Year game. Gorham, the goalie was in goals.
Aye.
Beat them 4-1 at Easter Road. So we had a good record at that time against Hibs.
Good.
And then in Europe most years, Bayern Munich being the pick of the bunch, 1-0 at Tynecastle. Ian Ferguson get the goal. Place was rocking. So no, a good spell at Hearts
That's
as well.
a decent team, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good stadium. I think I like them. They've got a good stadium and all that. And,
We needed soccer Viagra at that time. We could only get you a semi.
hey. I've never had that problem. Don't know what you're talking about.
Oh dear. I
Good.
don't know
It's
why.
Hearts have always been. I like Scottish football. And you've got a strong Hearts and a strong Aberdeen. You know, and St Mirren's pushing for Europe now again, but we used to do all the time. But I think it's good when Scottish football and teams come up and
What was the Hullet game,
challenge.
Maka? Hullet?
Feyenoord.
Do you play Mechelen as well?
They did. Someone played
And that
Mechelen.
run-
Mechelen,
Mechelen,
aye.
aye.
Played some good
Lot of
game.
good-
Playing against Cruyff, wasn't
Yeah,
I was
Cruyff.
up against Cruyff, brilliant.
Actually, ex-Celtic left back. We were just talking about Kieran
Yes.
Tierney earlier on. So
Was yours
and
to
again,
take it? Brilliant for me.
Aye, different class. Born and bred, and when it's in the blood, it makes a wee bit of difference, you know, when you're playing for the badge. That's why I think he was desperate to get back up the road. But that's a great sign for us.
He's went away and proved himself in the big league. That's what you want to do.
Definitely.
Got a bit of money, and
Yeah.
he's not going to be wanting for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen, no matter what, he's on a free. He'll get a good contract at Celtic, and that's what the boy wants. It's just 5 years we've got him, and I think when you take left backs, no disrespect to you, Tosh, but I think he's one of the best in a bit. You know, I think he's one of the best. I just can't think of anyone else. I think he's better than Andy Robertson. I mean, that's what I think.
Well,
As a
Robertson was-
defender.
proved himself a bit.
Oh, I know
a
he
bit
has.
longer in England. You
Aye,
know,
I know.
But
I know.
Kieran for me.
Aye.
And
That's
as I
an
say,
interesting-
when
that's
Just
a really-
an opinion. I think he's one of the best. I honestly do. And that's why.
That's a really good question. It's been asked loads of times. But if you're wanting to give us your thoughts, leave a comment.
And this is all our
Tierney-
opinions.
Kieran Tierney or Andy Robertson at their peak. Who would you have in your team? Obviously, Andy Robertson's fitness record has been probably better than Kieran's over the years, but I'm sure if you asked a lot of Scotland fans, there's not much between them. But Kieran at his very best, and
Well, Andy could have signed for Celtic as well, couldn't he? And they said no, I didn't want him.
Well, I think
They said he didn't want him.
and that's a great story with Andy Robertson going back to Queen's Park,
I know.
Dundee United, and then gets his Celtic England with Hull, and then Liverpool.
Aye,
And
tremendous.
anybody that wins the Champions League, then you've got to be up there,
You've got to be up there.
he was playing for Queen's Park when Rangers
I
were
want
in
a
the
game.
same league.
The what?
I want a game. The European Cup, that was good enough.
When Rangers played against Queen's Park in the same division, and Andy Robertson was playing for Queen's Park, and you sort of wonder what the Rangers scouting team was doing at that point.
I know.
This wee boy bombing up and down that wing.
Yeah.
And nobody thought whether Andy Robertson would have wanted to sign for Rangers is another question, I suppose. But so when I think of Tosh McKinlay and a Celtic trip, I think of a couple of things. I think of your floated ball over at Big Pierre in the 1995 Scottish Cup final. Also think about that famous night when George Cadet put 5 Live off the air with the noise when he came on in his debut. You were involved in that goal, were you not? Did you not put the ball through to him? Or you made
That
a
was
bit
the
of
only goal I wasn't involved in. I had 4 assists that night. Granty stuck the ball through for George.
And did he?
I thought you made a bit of a darting run.
No, that
Had to be Granny.
was Simon Donnelly's goal. The
Right,
run up
the
the
run,
line.
right, okay.
Cut back for Simon Donnelly.
Whenever I think of that night and I visualise Cadet scoring, I visualise you having an absolute blinder.
You're not wrong there,
I know,
Simon.
you're
You're
right.
not wrong there.
Aye.
But I wasn't involved in that goal.
Bum him up somewhere. Right.
I'm hoping to come back on again. But how would you describe? What would you describe as your kind of highlights for Celtic?
The highlight for me was actually signing for Celtic. Driving up Kerrydale Street. My first final was 1972 when Dixie scored the hat-trick against Hibs. And I'm driving up there to sign for the famous Glasgow Celtic, so the ritual on a Saturday used to be, before I started playing on a Saturday afternoon, my grandest died in Anderson. We used to go pick him up at Charing Cross, get the train up to Belgrove, and there was a pub called the Shandon Bells. I wasn't drinking at that time, don't worry, I was only 10. Used to stand outside, and my dad and my granda went in, get a couple of pints before we went up with the game. It was brilliant. That was the ritual. And then on the supporters bus, left with the Dolphin, the White Inch bus for away games. So that was a highlight of the weekend. Playing this for the school on the Saturday and going to watch Celtic.
Got a game in the afternoon.
Aye,
You used to play all the time on the Saturday, Celtic. Not now, it's all, everything's now Sundays
Aye.
and Mondays.
Which would have been handy. But
I know time moves on, but everyone played the Saturday
Aye,
we
totally.
played,
Aye.
which was ideal.
But so when you then all these years later, 1994, you sign the dotted line. That's just absolute boys' own stuff, the dream stuff, isn't it?
definitely, and Tommy Burns allowed me to live the dream, signing for Celtic. I've no got many regrets, but obviously the one regret is no winning the championship under Tommy Burns, especially that 95-96 season.
What a team.
Only lost one game, didn't win the league. So that's a wee regret. But people still come up to me now and say it's the best footballing team since the Lions.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that Tommy Burns laid the foundations for what you're seeing now. That was part of the revolution. First season back at Hampden wasn't great, but at the end of that season we end up win the Scottish Cup, so we're going back to Celtic Park winners.
Yeah. Aye, that's it. And you were central to that as well with the cross for Pierre.
I had a wee hand in the goal, but I couldn't really miss Van Hooijdonk. He was 6'12", so it was, but every time I seen him cross it in.
How was he in the dressing room? Was he good?
No, it was brilliant, Macca. We had a great dressing room. Obviously, the three amigos, Van Hooijdonk, Decano, George Cadet. Decano, absolute madman, but some trainer. And that's what I say to people. When you're dealing with that on a daily basis, then you've nothing to fear on the Saturday, Andy Tom, Decano, George Cadet, Van Hooijdonk, and they all got it.
Yeah,
Andy was a wee bit
that's
quieter,
what I'm thinking, if you got all the foreigners, and how was it in that dressing room? Because it looks to me as if it's a bit quiet now, but that team was it.
It was lively. But I would like to have been your dressing room. That's the only dressing room or team that I would want to have been in the centenary team.
Oh God, aye.
So
you talk about this all the time. It was a team of leaders,
there was
team of massive
not one,
characters.
Roy was the captain, but We were all captains.
Yeah.
And that's, we keep
Who was the
saying
quiet man out of interest? Was there a quiet, maybe Anton Rogan? Or
Paul was quite one. No, Anton's nuts.
Aye, but-
Nobody's him. No, Paul was a quiet man out of everyone.
Aye, but he didn't need to be
No,
vocal.
he didn't. But you know what I'm talking about is I'm talking about just making decisions on the pitch. I'm not talking about going and hitting somebody or whatever. But if there's something, I used to get dragged in, Big Roy or Paul or Granny and say, Mackie, come into midfield, we're getting overrun. So I'd come back in, spend 10, 15 minutes, get control of the game again, and I'd go back up. I mean, we didn't have to look at the manager.
Obviously done that
didn't
for
have to
St
look
Mirren
at
anyway.
I know, but you didn't have
into midfield.
didn't have to look at the manager, you know, but we done it ourselves.
It was something.
It was, and I think managers would like you doing that because it's Big Billy was like, brilliant, no. Didn't have
And
to
that's
make
the fairy
changes.
tale
you know.
about Celtic,
Of
right
course
to
it is.
the end.
Of course
The
it is.
centenary year.
Aye.
Always
the
late
double
goals.
Didn't know when it was, we didn't know.
Mac will tell you it was a holiday book, so he had to get the winner.
I was delighted when they jumped at me. I remember Jim White saying, "Or if ever the players love Mac, no, there was 5 he's gone on holiday."
Yeah.
When I get your deposit back.
It's the
Aye, when
semi-
they get all money back.
The semi-final against Hearts when you popped up as a right winger briefly.
Yes.
But I remember watching a Paul McStay interview years later, and he was talking about how that equaliser went in pretty much on 90 minutes, I think, and they're all thinking brilliant. We've got the replay, but it was Roy Aiken was saying replay nothing.
Man, get it. Let's get
You're
it.
going to win this.
You
So
actually
pound
see,
for
you
pound,
actually,
that's the Hearts' best game, I
know.
think, in the Celtic jersey.
The
That
Hearts game.
semi-final, the Hearts.
I was one. It was
absolutely
probably
ran the
my
show.
worst. Yeah.
Aye.
Mark McGee come
But
on.
there you are.
Took Andy Walker off and Mark McGee come on. And I'm going, I should begin off. And he says, no, keep going. And Mark went to go out right. And I says, Dingus, come in here. And he says, no, Gaffer once. I says, I'm having a shocker. You come in here, I'll give you a goal. And I went out right and I just lobbed it and Henry dropped it. Thanks very much, Henry. Thanks. And we put it in, got to equalise, got the winner. It was just different class. And then his final speaks for itself, didn't it? It was brilliant.
Well,
but you actually see when I scored the first goal, you actually see on TV me saying to Paul McStay, let's get the winner. I mean, it was
Some goal for Kevin
12 minutes.
Gallagher, right enough.
Oh, Big Roy couldn't pull him down because he'd just been booked.
I know that's a good point. Aye.
He was like, Roy says, he'd have been up there, but he couldn't do it because he'd been off.
So you had a great time under Tommy Burns. Obviously, when things changed a wee bit, and who came in after? There was Burns and Dalglish. Well,
No,
Wim
Jansen
Jansen before.
first.
You'd have played under Wim Jansen.
No, I get bummed out for obviously the wee altercation.
All right.
Oh, aye,
the
of course,
king.
Dad,
Henrik.
tell us about that. Aye.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Everyone makes a big thing of it, Tosh. Before you tell, what I can say is, that happens all the time in a training ground, and I'll guarantee you and him became pals after it. I mean, you were pals before it and pals after it.
Yeah,
That's what happens in a dressing room.
Unfortunately, a punter seen it and
Aye,
went to the
but that's
press,
the biggest
and
problem.
then Celtic had to kind of take action. I get suspended for a couple of weeks. Not my best decision to hit the most high-profile player that the club's had for the past 40 years. Found myself languishing in the reserves. Went to chap Jansen's door one day and I said, Mr. Jansen, why am I in the second team? He said, because we don't have a fucking third team.
Go on, Vim.
oh dear.
Brilliant.
No, but you're right. It just kind of cleared the air. There was a lot of things going on at training and stuff. Of
course.
Yeah, Sid alluded to that as well. He basically said things had been maybe kind of brewing a wee bit, and there was like kind of there's always a kind of them and us a wee bit. Some of the players that had come in and some of the established players, and I think the way he described it was it almost needed to happen.
Yeah.
It was a kind of a release.
Unfortunately, it was me that done it.
Aye.
And he ended up the king of kings and ended up
Don't
in
worry about it. I get it all the time.
Siberia.
I get into trouble all the time. It just happens to be a lot.
Joking aside, afterwards you became good pals. Is that everything all right?
No, everything was fine after that.
that's what I'm
I
saying,
went
it
to
happens.
Went to the house that night and kind of squared it up.
Pardon.
Genuinely, that's hang on. This is a bit of history. We're listening to. So you went around his house and
I had to, like,
That's what happens. Of course.
there was things happening. I ended up getting back to the house with my training gear on because I knew that I was going to be in trouble. Didn't want to face the music a wee bit. So, but that night I said, I need to get round and see how he is, So, and I ended up in the 9 o'clock news. Remember Trevor McDonough?
Aye.
Yeah, it was on the news that night, and there was a Swedish camera crew at my door.
Oh.
My daughter came. She was only about 6. Dad, there's people wanting to see you with big cameras, and I'm thinking, I've only had a fight with somebody at training,
Just happened to be
and then he went back. He went back for a funeral, and there were reports that he wasn't coming back. Death threats.
Oh.
So No, it wasn't the best time. And I knew I was bombed out because John Clark ended up on the bench one week. He was 65 at the time.
That would have been so. Stephen Mahey came in as well, didn't he? Around about that point, was it?
Stephen Mahey came in, and I think Wim had this. He wanted the back four just to sit in a wee bit, you know. Stephen Mahey, it was either Boydie on one side, Reaper, and Oney flitted from right back to centre back. He wanted that kind of strict back four, which I didn't. Which is that's life.
Of course, it is.
You know, it end up. Mac has been through it as well.
That's
With
what
maybe
it
with
is.
Macari, you don't actually see eye to eye, you know. But there was no problem with Wim. I think that was his ritual. He used to come on a Saturday and say, "You're not playing this week."
Is that
Well,
right?
again.
Is that right?
So it was just one of the things. But then at the end of the season, my team, Stoke Rangers, then 10 in a row and end up going to the World Cup. So it wasn't that bad.
Aye, of course, aye.
That's life.
But I was just trying to say, we were talking about it earlier, and things like that, people don't understand. See, when you've got all these boys when they're training and training hard, and things happen, you know, and it's just unfortunate somebody noticed it, and that wouldn't have got out.
No.
That would have been kept indoors. And
Yeah.
It's just, we talked about it, Big John Hartson at West Ham, happened to him. Somebody was there with a camera.
It wasn't quite as bad as that, right?
No, but you know what I mean? It just happened to be the first time they let cameras onto the ground.
Yeah.
And John does that, and it just blew up. But John's the same as you. He felt terrible for it because it was happening.
No,
But it does happen. There's fights all the time.
Wasn't in my makeup, but
No.
when you lose the rag,
Yeah.
and you think somebody's going to hit you, then
Can you remember the immediate kind of build up to it? What the kind of trigger was? Did the Henrik say something, or did they just...
No, there was everything going on.
It was
at
everything
training.
going about.
People were leaving their foot in. There was bits, and I'm thinking, I'm keeping it the road of this.
So
So
it's
at the end, we
getting nasty.
always used to have a wee five-a-side.
Aye.
I've kind of tugged his jersey and he's kind of swung round, missed me, and then the red mist come down, and then that's it. But there wasn't. It was just one of the things, you know.
Handbags.
Yeah, it was.
That happens.
And that was it. 2 weeks suspension, and then get back in. Had to apologise, which I was going to do anyway.
He's forgotten how many goals you gave him after that.
Oh,
There
was plenty, you know. So, as I say, he ends up the
Top
King
man.
of Kings and
Top
the top
man.
man. You know, he was a fantastic player.
Now, anyone who's ever tried running a business will tell you how tough it can be, pouring your heart and soul into it and trying to turn your dream into reality and create a success story. Cash flow is important, especially in the early days when bills are piling up and you're trying to balance the books while focusing on developing your business and operation. So one thing you don't need is clients refusing to pay what they owe you or dragging their feet, which can be just as frustrating. And as you know, our main sponsors, Glenwood, are specialists in business-to-business debt recovery, focusing on the construction industry. If you're a business and someone's messing you around and not paying you what is rightfully yours, and you feel there's nowhere else to turn, then Glenwood can help.
That's right. I say it every week, and it really is an important message. If you do the work and stick to your part of the deal, then it's only fair that you get paid on time for the job that you have done.
Absolutely. If you want to get paid faster, get in touch at glenwoodconstruction.co.uk.
And most important of all, don't forget to tell them Frank sent you.
So you rightly said the Celtic stopped at 10, you went to the World Cup. What a time in your life that was. I mean, you know.
Well, I'd been to Euro 96. That was a fantastic experience as well. Again, your old man, I was at Wembley, 79, I think. George Wood threw them in for fun.
3-1, Peter Barnes scored.
Yes.
Aye.
And then you're going to play against England at Wembley. He's sitting there watching, you know, my family were there as well. My young daughter's watching her dad at Wembley. And that's, played against Gorham all season. That's the only one he didn't save, the one for Gascoigne, and I'm in his team, you know.
Yeah.
Because if you think about the best save I've seen live, I crossed it in for Van Hooydonk. He smashed it for 6 yards, and the goalie's got his hand to it. And that's what Tommy Burns said, that they'll put in his gravestone, you know.
Andy Gorham broke my heart.
Andy Gorham broke his heart. So, but at that time, you think about the Rangers team, you know, like Loudrops, McCoy's.
But what a time for Scottish football. I mean, just we're still doing it, bringing up players to Scotland. It's just incredible. The fact that we had DeCanio on them and Henrik, and they've got Laudrup and Gascoigne. That's just, for Scottish football, it's incredible. I don't think people appreciated it at the time.
All the superstars.
Yeah.
And I'm back in the scouting staff, and Andy Ritchie and Davy Hay bringing all the players in.
I know.
DeCanio, Van Hooijdonk, George Cadet, Andy Tom. For buttons, really, in comparison to what people pay now. And then Wim later on knew that Henrik had the clause at Feyenoord, 650 grand.
Oh,
that's an important piece of information in the Celtic history, isn't it?
I know.
It is.
But Wim just having that wee bit of knowledge.
And Henrik was playing the wing at that time for Feyenoord.
I know.
But Wim just knew that he had that clause and wasn't really that happy there. Brings him to Celtic Park. Wow.
I think people sometimes forget about Henrik as well. Remember the USA 94 World Cup?
Yes.
And it's been finished third, and he scored a lovely goal. He don't know, dummy the keeper or something?
Dummy the keeper, round the keeper. I think it was against Romania.
Yeah. And I watched footage the other day. It was a penalty shootout as well, and he knocked it away. He knocked it, really calmly, and he just looked so young.
You're a groupie. You are a groupie, innit?
How do you mean?
Well, seen that run to 98.
Watch his game, Rob.
I know, don't you start my
Watch his games. Look at Henrik.
In the run to 98, we beat Sweden at Ibrox. Henrik was playing. And I wasn't playing for Celtic, I was playing for Scotland, ironically. And then ended up having to go to Stoke for a month, which wasn't great. But Craig Brown says you'll need to go out and play. But every month I was playing for Scotland, wasn't playing for Celtic, and lucky enough I ended up going to the tournament at the end up, which was brilliant.
Yeah, even just playing in that. Did you come on against Brazil, or did you start against Brazil?
No, I come on against Brazil the last 10 minutes. 2 McKinleys come on that day. Same spelling, Billy McKinlay and myself. No brothers. So.
And what was the middle game? It was Norway, wasn't it? When Burley scored one each.
In Bordeaux.
What
an atmosphere down there. And then the last game we let ourselves down a wee bit, the Morocco game.
Aye, that was a pumping, wasn't it?
Yes, we get turned over there. And that was it. 22 and out. That was me finished.
You retire after that?
No, well, that was it. Didn't get picked.
Who was the manager there, Andy?
Craig Brown.
Craigie.
So that would have been getting into the campaign for the 2,000 euros. It would have been probably a fresh rebuild and kind of new player. I wonder who the left back would have been.
I'd left Celtic. I was at Grasshoppers of Zurich at that time under ex-England manager Roy Hodgson. Roy certainly knows his football. That's how ended up back in Scotland in 3 months. Before Mac could get in there.
Who needs Ricky Gervais when we get Tosh McKinlay?
So that was a good experience as well. Time to leave Celtic. I wasn't playing. Kenny Dalglish, one of my big heroes, and John Barnes took over. It was apparent that I wasn't going to be playing. And I went for a short spell at Grasshoppers, which was a really nice experience. Finished off my career at Kilmarnock. Less said about that, the better, to be honest.
Who was the manager
down there? Shite in the place.
Who was the manager there?
Bobby Williamson.
Oh,
So did you say you didn't have time to have a shite in the place?
I was only there for 6
Are we getting treated to your after dinner routine?
This is after dinner.
The script's under there.
Dear, this is probably really cute how you listen. If you want to see it live,
I know.
where are you appearing next, Tosh?
I'm available for
children's
parties.
He still thinks he's working in Vegas.
Oh, fantastic. The convention, how many days does that involve being over there?
7.
Aye.
7 days of madness.
Is it full on?
But I'm teetotal, so you can kind of sit back and watch it, you know.
Tommy would have been teetotal. Tommy Johnson.
Was Tommy Johnson there with you?
Tommy Johnson, Tomo. I didn't know Tomo.
Tomo was I
didn't drink till I seen him sober one night.
He just walks away with the... Is it brandy? Is it brandy he drinks?
I don't know, mate.
He's got a wee glass. Every time you see a photo of him, he's got a wee glass.
But good fun.
And Bobby wouldn't have been drinking either. Bobby.
No, Bobby was off it as well.
Aye.
But
it's a waste of time. A waste of time gone.
Well, it's part of the thing, isn't it? You go to socialise a
bit.
bit.
I think you were saying how Celtic's almost kind of globally unique with the conventions.
Yeah.
But what a great thing to do for your international, your North American fan base as well.
Absolutely. And as say Big Tommy Donnelly, that's 30 years, and that was the 30th anniversary. And it used to be a big thing. The Lions went, but unfortunately, some are no longer with us or no fit to go, you know. But I've been there a couple of times with Bertie. What a fantastic ambassador for Celtic Football Club, you know. The energy that man had, I think he was about 75 at the time and bombing about, you know. I'm sure he had that Michael Jackson chamber up the stair. He just used to lie in there, get the oxygen in, and then bombing about during the day, you know.
Some boy.
But what a man.
I know.
Some boy.
I miss him. And I miss him. He's played in his golf day last week.
They tell me it was good
good.
day again.
Good fun. Good fun.
Hags Macca, yeah.
So it's good. So you played in the World Cup and you played in the Euros, which is brilliant for somebody that was
obviously at 29 to get my first cap.
Brilliant.
Super Ali got us the goal, set us on our way to Euro 96. And to play in that tournament as well, a whisker away for getting into the next round.
Story of Scotland's career, though, isn't it?
It is.
That was the one, so if the Dutch hadn't scored at the death against England, Scotland would have gone through.
Can I say something?
Go for it.
Every single tournament, if this had happened and if that had happened, we were the same.
No, there's been a couple of times.
You know what I mean? We were the same.
But there's always goal difference.
If Stevie Echo had put a body in an inch, it would have been a goal, and we'd have went through, and then it happened. I'm
going to say, I think we'll get away with this, but I remember there was a piece in the paper the following day, and I better not name the journalist in case I get it wrong, but I don't think I got it wrong. And it was a match report, and it was all about how Netherlands scored had stopped Scotland from qualifying, and he said, if only Seaman had kept his legs closed. And then he said, come to think of it, if only Seaman's mother had kept her legs closed.
Correct. I thought that was Macca. I was going to
correct. No.
You heard that one before?
I've heard that before.
That's dreadful. Apologies.
But again,
anyone's offended by that.
The next game would have been France at Anfield. Do you imagine the crowd at Anfield?
Wow. That'd be incredible.
Unfortunately, we
might even have went to that one.
But we were a whisker away. Another goal here and there. And we were all over Switzerland as well. I think Coisty had about 2 or 3 snaps before he put the one in the top corner, you know. So, really good experience again.
We should finish up talking about Scotland, and we're not going to. Steve Clark's an old teammate of yours and good pal of yours, so we're not going to start speculating about who's going to be the
But that's what it would be, speculating, because Stevie's his own man. He'll do it. He'll do what he wants, and he'll know what he's wanting.
But the Iceland result wasn't great, was it?
No. I think it's a change of the guard needed, isn't it? He's got. I like that the other night of bringing in the new players and youngsters and getting them in the team, and he'll know who he can rely on.
Yeah. They always seem to. They do seem to kind of up their game a wee bit when it matters. I mean, the record in friendlies has been absolutely dreadful, but some of the qualification, actual group matches. I mean, the way they started that last campaign a couple of years ago.
But to qualify for another major tournament, and hopefully they'll be the next team to get the World Cup. Because France 98 is a long time away without getting to a World Cup, and it gives the whole country a boost. So hopefully the team, the manager gets there.
Yeah,
I hope so.
There's too many good players.
Too many good players, and as I say, and hopefully, as we've been speaking about him, hopefully Kieran can keep himself fit and playing for both Celtic and Scotland, so it'll be good.
Yes.
We've not had a chance to address before we finish up, the Big Ange getting his jotters from Spurs. What do you think of that?
I think he'll be lying in Copacabana or somewhere. He'll be like with a big cigar.
Aye.
It's 5 million or something.
2 million bonus for winning the Europa League.
And rightly so.
Rightly so, I know.
And his payoff would have been handy as well.
I understand.
Seems a bit a basket case at Spurs.
Leave it.
Like the main goal
to win a
at
trophy.
the start of every season is to win a trophy. Correct, Macca?
Stay in the league and win a trophy.
Goal is to get in the Champions League. So he's achieved his 2 targets.
Yeah.
And irrespective of what you say about the position they found themselves in the league, it doesn't matter.
No, a lot of those points are sacrificed.
I think he's set his stall out to say, I'm concentrating on Europa.
Yeah, but and a lot of folk will say, but you have to be able to manage a team in the Premier League and in Europe. That's what top managers do.
He had so many injuries.
100%. And at some point, he's basically said I presume he said to Daniel Levy, well, if you want a trophy, this is how we're going to have to win it, and we're going to have to concentrate on that. And they sacrifice league points. If they had to win, really had to win some of those games in the last few weeks, they wouldn't have finished 17th.
But they were never in any danger of getting relegated.
The bottom three were set. They were cut adrift. Yeah. They were long cut adrift. So.
And a great fella, he'll not be long Out the dugout.
Oh, of
That's
course.
for
He's a
sure.
great,
And I tell you what,
great football guy,
what a
great footballing man.
tremendous guest he would be for us as well. Big Ange, get Big Ange on Zoom, because I don't. If he's in Copacabana Beach, he's probably not going to come in to.
He's a lovely
Kinnick
guy. He
Park.
spoke to he knows that. See, when he came, Celtic, he was brilliant. But I was at sadly, it was McGarvey's funeral, and that's the first time I'd met him, and he came on, he said, "How you doing, Frank?" I was like, I thought, I was looking round, I thought he'd speak to the right guy. I thought it was somebody else, but it was great. And then I seen him a couple of games after, and he said, "How you doing?" So he knows all the boys, he knows his history, if you like. You know, he knows it.
Very knowledgeable.
So it was
great
great.
fella to work with.
Didn't know Toby, you can tell Toby. Toby's standing beside me, and I'm going, "Do you want me to introduce you?" Jaws wasn't too happy, just because.
That great fella. No
A good
belonging
guy.
to the dugout.
Aye.
Well, listen, time's got us,
Yeah.
so we'll quick reminder to everybody
shot.
as well, as we say every week, go on, hit subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, it's free to do it, but it does let us know that you love us and you keep watching, and the great numbers that you've been watching, and we've also noticed a lot of regular guys and you know, men and women commenting
Yeah.
every week, some of the same names. So thanks for the
Thank
support.
you for
Thanks
that,
for
yeah.
all the very positive comments too. And yeah, it doesn't cost you to subscribe, but it helps us. So hit the likes, lots of shares, follow us on social media, TikTok, Instagram, all the usual stuff. And
Yeah, it lets me sleep at night.
let's Frank sleep at night. Aye.
Can I just say for it,
Yeah, go
finish
on,
up?
Aye.
No, I'm not,
Go
not
for it,
funny.
aye.
Frank, big pal of mine, but he's one player or team that I'd want to have been in. I've already mentioned that centenary team. What a team. A lot
Cheers,
of
pal.
characters in the dressing room.
Cheers, mate.
So top man,
You'd have loved
top
it.
player.
You'd have loved it.
And how would
would have.
you, we kind of touched on this before, but how would you like to have Tosh McKinlay supplying the ammunition?
Oh, brilliant. Aye. Well, we only had Rogie, that was the only one. And
Well,
Rogie
Chris Morris, the famous goal for
he
you
was
in
he was
the
in
New
the,
Year
he was in
game.
the right one. He was
Yeah.
there, but it was Rogie was
But what a goal that was.
sometimes Rogie didn't know
Is
who
that
he
when the
was.
maestro
The
turns
maestro
pirouettes?
Oh,
touch,
soon as went
swivel.
out and paid in again.
Swivel played Morris in
I know.
and
I
Macca.
know. Do you know the funny thing about that? Andy Walker was behind me and he's shouting, "Leave it."
Leave it, you're on the goal line.
He's like, "Leave it."
It wasn't your most challenging finish, really, was it, Frank?
Well, considering I get sent off, you know, and I had to build my games up against.
But historically,
that was my next game against them, so I was relying on that.
historically at that time, if you won the New Year game, you won the league.
Of course.
So
It was a
very
big boost,
important.
big boost.
Yeah, and I've heard
Big
you
boost.
talking about like,
Yeah.
sleepless night and all that. And
Well, we went there. That's when we thought we'd won the league. We went to Ibrox and beat them 2-1. Paul scored and the hat scored, and,
Yeah.
and Andy Rogie hit
Just
it off.
did it.
Off his chest.
Yeah.
And who scored for Rangers that day?
The left back.
Left back.
Aye.
Jan Bartram.
Jan
Bartram, that's
I
it.
couldn't tell you what I had for my breakfast this morning, but give me a question.
That's the thing about the football.
Brilliant.
That's it. Anyway, so
What
we'll
was
leave.
Henrik doing that day?
I think he was sitting in an exam.
he?
Aye. Him and Tom Hardy were sitting in their
All right,
bedroom looking at
okay.
posters
Yeah,
of me.
all right.
Right, we'll leave it there. Tosh, absolute pleasure. Thank
Yeah,
you very
thanks,
much.
Tosh.
My pleasure.
This is
Absolute
really
pleasure.
scary.
Thanks,
Thanks,
pleasure.
mate.
I don't. I mean, I'm living a dream. Sitting with guys like you every week. It's fantastic.
Good
And
fun.
Frank keeps bringing out some great names, and I'm dead excited to see who we've got next. So, but we'll
good
leave
one.
it to
I
that.
kept
Good
waiting
one.
for the invite rating off.
Good one next week. I know.
How
But
far's in the list?
We're
I know.
we're getting more and more important as we
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
That's what I'm from.
I'll crack the jokes.
I'm doing it. Just one of them. I'm going through my diary and it's just going through.
Aye.
So I'm doing M now, McKinlay. That's it. So, sorry.
So we knew
Yeah,
this. We'll
follow
get
them.
you, then we get Wayne Biggins next week, and
Tony Adams.
Tosh, thanks again. Right.
Aye, thanks, Tosh. Thanks very much,
And
Paul.
we'll join you again next week for hopefully a less chaotic
Thanks very
episode
much.
of Let Me Be Frank. Tosh, brilliant pattern, much appreciated. And we'll see you again soon. Take
Cheers.
care.
Take care.